It's Christmas time. It's that time of year, guys, and we're going to be talking Christmas episodes from Bob's Burgers, Rick and Morty, Monarch, maybe not, but a bunch of stuff to do and watch and talk about. And if you don't agree,
you're wrong.
Well, hello, everybody. Officially, welcome to our special Christmas episode of If You Don't Agree, You're Wrong. And, of course, next to me is the great Jason Roy Gaston and the more important, Battle Cat.
Absolutely. I know my building. Battle Cat's on top. I am in smaller print underneath, as it should be.
Has the wound healed? If you don't know, folks, Jason was viciously put in his place by his master during the week.
I was host slapped, yes, in the middle of the night. She laid my face open. I have a little mark from here down to my beard line. It bled for about an hour, and I said some very creative things in orders that I don't think was ever mentioned in the English language before. Just combinations, and it was poetry, really. Dirty, profane poetry.
Well, if you step out of line, mate, these things happen.
Well, you can tell how bothered she is.
Well, guys, let's not muck around. Let's get into the shows of the week, and we're going to start it off with a season final, which is really kind of strange already. It feels like it just started, and that's for Rick and Morty.
Not a Christmas episode.
Not a Christmas episode.
More of a Halloween episode.
Yes, more Halloween episode. I think that's an excellent kind of description. And because you've said that, I think what I might do is get you to chat about it first. When did you watch this, by the way?
I watched it Monday. I had to buy it on Amazon Prime because they don't have it on Hulu anymore, at least not the new episodes, which, thank you, Adult Swim. Thank you very much.
Are you kidding me? Are you telling me now that you have to pay to watch it?
Yep.
Oh, because you don't have Netflix, is that correct? Or is it not on Netflix?
It's not on Netflix in America. They were putting the new episodes on Hulu, but then they stopped doing that. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you ready to let it all out? What your thoughts were?
Let's let it all out.
The final episode of season 7.
Appropriate as that most of it took place in a bathroom. Let's let it all out.
Here we go.
So I'm just going to say it right now. This is the best finale that Rick and Morty's ever done, to be perfectly honest. I found the writing very, very good. The multiple twist endings were handled very well. Spoiler alert, by the way, having the fear hole feeding off of Morty's fear with Rick not even being in there, that was incredible. That was incredible. And seeing Morty just come to a peace with it, I thought was just, the writing was just so darn good. Morty's entire fear is that Rick becomes happy and doesn't need him anymore. And that is so incredibly selfish. And it's because of that selfishness, it's a fear that Morty would never, ever admit to. I also found the very, very ending about Rick finding out that Diane was in the hole and he was going to jump down there to be with her. But then he stops and he puts that picture of Morty on the wall, showing that, you know what, Morty is indispensable to him, even if he doesn't want to admit it. It was funny. It was tragic. It was very high concept. I just absolutely love this episode. It's the best finale that they've done. If not the best finale they've ever done, it's certainly one of the best finales that they've ever done. I am going to go ahead and give this one the highly coveted rating of an Ultra Dazzer because they deserve it. There were a couple of stumbles this season, but overall the season has been very good. It's a redemption year for Rick and Morty. They did it very well. I'm happy for them. I'll be here next season.
All right, it's my turn. Now, I don't know how I can say any more eloquently than you've kind of described this episode. It is a really great episode. So I'll just touch on things that I haven't spoken about, and I'll go right to the end, the after credit scene with Mr. Poopy Butthole. It was dark. It was macabre. I love the setup, what it implies. I thought that was wonderful. Yes, the fear. It's an episode I will say that you really need to be paying attention to. It's not one you can kind of walk in and out because of the fun of the third act, how it keeps maneuvering and twisting and things like that, which is really great. And the fact that most importantly, like the introduction of Diane and seeing that kind of relationship kind of play out in a way through Morty's perspective, I suppose, that whole thing. But the fact that Rick doesn't. It's a payoff for all the pain that we've seen him go through this season. He has, and we talked about that earlier this season, how he was really struggling. And it feels like this whole season, it's just not nicely given a bow by saying, by him putting the photo up of Morty, you know, it also says to me that Rick is now ready to move on himself. He's let go of the Diane. So, no, it's wonderfully done. It's wonderfully executed. A season that had its back against the wall. Let's face it. Everybody was ready to bag this thing because of the new voiceover artists. And they've really proven themselves this season. So bravo to all the team at Rick and Morty because you've made a great season. And comparatively less, there's always a season with ups and downs, but this is like no other season, but the episodes that were strong have been some of the strongest. It is a well-deserved, absolutely ultra dazzler. I think it's a bravo. It's a round of applause, honestly.
Absolutely. I would clap my hands, but I don't want to wake up the baby.
No, don't wake up the baby. But yeah, it was really cool. It was fun. It was so, I don't know, it's classic Rick and Morty to me, but something new at the same time, you know?
It does. It feels like this series has just been given a shot of adrenaline. And it could be because they felt like that they had something to prove and that they couldn't be complacent this year. Because I did kind of get the impression that the previous season was one of complacency, like, oh, people are going to watch us no matter what. And then they had, the Justin Roiland situation, and they just decided, you know what, we're going to show them who we are. And they did. They did it magnificently. And so I really enjoyed this season, and it's good to have classic Rick and Morty back with a little bit of an extra twist to it.
Absolutely. All right, let's move it on to a show that had a week off last week for reasons unknown, but returned this week in Krapopolis, Dan Harmon's other show, which we've been delighted with so far. So, so it's time to talk about episode. I can't believe we're episode 11. We're 11 episodes in. I do believe this is the second to last episode of the season. I think it's 12, unless they've got an extension. So we're almost at the end of the season. But, I'm going to let you know what I think of this episode. Like, at the end of the day, I reckon you could just replace the same things I've said over the last 10 weeks and just play them again now. It is repeating ourselves. The show's amazing. It is so much fun. The whole idea of the Hydra, doing an analogy on social media was so funny and so well done with their perspective. This show is magic. Like, it's really, they've got something here. And I think as long as they keep going in this direction, this show is going to go down build in popularity and go down as one of the real funny animated shows at the moment. But yeah, I mean, what else could you say? I don't want to spoil too much of it but the Hydra, wow. And how perfectly they show how a society changes and reacts to something like this and how quickly you become obsessed with it. No, it's absolutely wonderful. So, what can I say? I'm not going to give it an ultra. I'll save that for later, but it's a very high rurific. For sure. All right, mate. Your turn.
All right, start that clock.
Let's reset that clock. Here we go.
So Yeah, it's just like you said. It just seems like every week I'm crowing about how brilliant this show is and how more people should be watching it. If you're not watching Krapopolis, you need to be watching it because it is every bit as witty and funny as Rick and Morty. Um, and I would go a step forward in saying that the characters are better than Rick and Morty characters. I know that's a heck of a thing to say about a show in its first season, but it is. I actually care about these characters more than Rick and Morty because they're not steeped in nihilism or cynicism. They actually have hopes and dreams, and they want to attain them. This episode was a quirky, funny lampoon of social media and Alexa and Google and virtual assistants and misinformation and just the anonymous prigs on the internet that just basically make the internet terrible. And the Hydra was such a clever way to bring that into this Bronze Age setting that Krapopolis is in. I enjoyed it. I laughed at it. I can't remember the name of the actress who played the Hydra, but she was just absolutely perfect. She had a wonderful voice for the role. And the ending just had me in tears, just seeing Stupendous and the Hydra, have their fight anyway. I just loved it. I loved this whole thing. Every character got a chance to shine. Every character had a chance to do something funny. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to give it the Ultra Dazzer. I just thought it was honestly that clever.
It really was, wasn't it? I love
really
yeah, and I wondered if that was the voice of one of the Android OSs, because the voice actress of the Hydra sounded like, that type of voice that you would get from an AI, or,
Darcy Carden.
Oh, Darcy Carden. She was in that wonderful show about heaven and hell with Kristen Bell.
Oh,
and Ted Danson. The Good Place.
Yes.
She played the AI system in The Good Place. She was wonderful in that. She's the best, actually.
I missed The Good Place, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. So
you've got to watch that show. It is fantastic. It is absolutely brilliant. All right, let's move it on, Jace. Let's now get to another show we've been watching. We're going to change tacks a little bit. No, we're not. We're going to stay in the animation realm. We're talking Bob's Burgers. All right, well, Bob's Burgers. Again, another show that after 14th season really has been fairly strong. And this one is called, I believe, The Nightmare 2 Days Before Christmas. Are you ready, mate?
I am ready. Let's talk about this.
Have a go.
So just like Krapopolis, I feel like I just repeat myself every week whenever I talk about Bob's Burgers. Just saying that this series is the comfort food of television. It is always good. It's never stale. And after 14 seasons, the fact that they are still this good is really quite amazing. This episode was a Christmas episode, and it really showed the Belchers at their finest, just as a family unit. Oh my gosh. I've forgotten the wife's name.
Linda.
Linda. I keep forgetting her name. Linda is the staunch traditionalist who has to have things the same way every year. Bob is, he just can't be bothered, but he is kind of obsessive about things, including covering up that terrible painting. And, the kids are the kids. I just, at the end of this episode, after all of them kind of go their separate ways and have their obsessions, the fact that the kids build a Christmas tree out of skis and the family comes together and says, you know what, this is great. This is great the way we had it. That is so wholesome. It's wholesome. It's wonderful. I couldn't help but smile at just the sentiment of it. What else can I say? This show's great. If you're not watching it, you should be. It's Bob's Burgers. It's just fantastic.
It felt very... Oh, there we go. My turn. We can try that again. Yeah, it felt very classically Christmas episode of television for me. The setup is there. There's a problem. They can't stay there, so they've got to stay at a different location, like fish out of water kind of thing at Christmas. How do they have a Christmas with all this adversity, and they bring it all back in a really sweet moment, because not only the kids make a false tree, they cover up the painting as well. So it was kind of really lovely, and it just there's this energy, there's this style and tone specifically around that family that is so unique, I think, on television. I don't think it gets enough credit how well defined these characters are in the space that they're in. Bob's Burgers, after 14 seasons, being as strong as it is, it's amazing. And you know what? There's not a lot to cover in this episode because it's such a very simple plot. You know, it's very simple all the way through. I mean, at the end of the day, but that's why it works, because they focus in on the characters more than the plot with this one. But there's some great bits. You know, the fact that they put their names in the snow, so Santa knows where to deliver the presents and things like that. There's nice little moments throughout it. It is beautiful. It is. It's an absolute horrific all the way, this one. I mean, you know, not the strongest episode of Christmas episode I've ever seen, but certainly a good Bob's Burgers episode.
You know, I really think that is the secret to Bob's Burgers' success, is that they do keep the plot simple. They don't overcomplicate them. They don't try to be super ambitious. They just tell stories, and they're stories that people can relate to. No, they're not. Yeah. They're not. And it works so well for that show. You know, in a world where television is mostly fantastical and heightened, you know, here you've got this very stylized, because this is a stylized animation choice. Yeah.
They keep things very grounded and realistic. And relatable. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. All right, now we're going to take a right turn. We're going to move away from animation, Jason. We're going to kick into Monarch, Legacy of Monsters.
Joy.
Show that really, what are we in? Episode 6? This is a 10-episode season, believe it or not. So we're just over halfway. So, yeah, I'm going to let you know what I think of it. I had real problems with last week's episode. In fact, I hated last week's episode. It was a terrible episode. And I was hoping that this episode would now focus on the 1950s, storyline and the setup of Monarch. And we get that in the beginning. However, we get fed a 15-minute sequence of them really dancing in a hall to establish that instead of focusing on the building of Monarch, no, we're gonna throw that there's a potential love story element in there. And focus on that for 20 minutes rather than focus on plot, which this episode in this series has the plot of a movie, not a 10-episode series, and it fails from that. These kids continue to be unlikable. I don't care about them. I didn't care about what May was saying at the end of it and all that kind of thing. It's just everything around this, except for the Godzilla moment, sucked. And I know that sounds brutal, but this is where we're at with this show. I will stick with it. I'm going to continue with it because I'll see how it goes. But man, this feels like a series of missed opportunities. And it's even more frustrating because you see it within the show. The elements are there for this to really be fantastic. And they just don't pull on those threads. The other thing was cool was the Monster Island bit with the guy being able to communicate, making that thing that communicates. I did love that. But the rest of it, it's horrendous. And I'm sad to say again, and I believe this is the second week in a row, Monarch Legacy of Monsters is getting a crock. And this is the way it is. Hey, Crocky. Here we go, mate. You ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready. This show blows. It is terrible. It just seems like it's a never-ending parade of bad decisions and bad characters. I got excited whenever it showed that it was taking place in the 1950s. I was like, oh, good. I like these characters. Guess what? I don't like these characters anymore. They're boring. I did not care for anything that happened in this episode. I didn't care for the ball. I didn't care for, the doctor encountering racism. Wow, what an overdone plot point that was. And then of course the love story. Let me roll my eyes a little bit. I thought they got a blank check the last time we saw them. What happened? Did they forget that they wrote that? And then of course we go back to the 2015 timeline with the worst characters in the world continuing to be the worst characters in the world. I honestly mentally checked out of most of this episode because I just could not get interested in what was going on. I seriously feel like they put Godzilla into this episode just so people could actually remember something that happened, which makes me wonder, how did Godzilla get underneath that mesa? Wouldn't it look like freshly dug earth? Because this is supposed to be like a few months after the San Francisco attack, and all of a sudden he's got a mesa on top of him? How does that even work? I just don't get it. It's illogical, it's stupid, it's boring. I actually said before we started filming the show that I wanted to check out, and you're like, no, Mike, we've only got a few episodes left. Stick with it. Okay, I'm not going to get out, but I'm giving this thing a big crock because this show sucks. It absolutely sucks, and it has no right to.
I tell you what, this show may actually force the design of the Ultra Croc. I think this is, if they have to pull out an Ultra Croc, it's probably going to be for this show.
We need to design an Ultra Croc with like Godzilla spines and breathing fire.
Okay. Look, yeah, it's you know what bothers me the most when I was watching it was like, why are these streaming services scared of the traditional miniseries? Why don't we go back? Because this could have been a tight 3-episode miniseries.
Yeah.
Out in 3, and you're done. And people,
Yeah.
and if it's good, people will watch it. You know,
well, they did it with the Continental. I mean, the Continental, in my opinion, started strong and sucked, but it was only 3 episodes. It didn't waste 10 weeks of my life.
You bring in unlikable characters with unlikable motives, and you expect us then to follow those characters along and somehow fall in love with them and care that they have feelings. We don't care.
No.
That's the reality.
No,
but
we
there
don't.
you go.
We don't care about characters just because they're young and pretty. We don't care. They're just awful. Every one of them are awful. And now the 50s characters are awful. I'm rooting for Godzilla. I'm just like, step on him. Do it. Give him the Godzilla -1 treatment.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a big missed opportunity too. So if they'd taken him out, I would have gone. If Godzilla taken him out right at the end, I would have gone. It really sucked, but bravo, what an end.
Bold choice. Bold choice, yes.
It would have jumped him like...
Okay. Have I lost Jace? Oh, good. Well, let me tell you about things that I would rather do than watch Godzilla in Monarch. I would rather watch Godzilla have a bowel movement, to be perfectly honest. I would rather watch Godzilla have explosive diarrhea on a city I didn't care about, like Tacoma. Are you back?
I'm back. I think
I've
just come back. I don't know.
It's okay. I saved the entire show in your absence.
Well, I think this is what happens when I bag an Apple TV show. I think they come down hard on me with the and strike my Wi-Fi down. But there you go.
The ghost of Steve Jobs is upset with you.
There you go. All right, now let's get into our last regular show for the week. Mind you, I will say to the audience now, we have got some newer shows starting now coming up. So we're going to have some fresh content starting when we return. So
it's been a little bit thin during the holiday season.
It has. Anyway, let's get into the next one, which is Blue-Eyed Samurai, Jason. Here we are. Blue-Eyed Samurai. And, wow, I believe this was episode 4 that we watched.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
episode 4.
We could be binging this entire show. We've just chosen to take it one episode at a time. So I know many of you are done with the show and you're thinking, wow, how are they only on 4? Discipline. That's how we're on episode 4, is discipline.
And I will say, savoring it. Savoring
Yes, I'm
It's been
actually enjoying
excellent.
savoring it. Yeah,
Yes, it's like something to look forward to watching each week.
yeah,
So very cool. All right, mate. Well, I do believe it's your turn to
it
give us your
is.
thoughts on what you thought on parallels and interiors. Here we go.
So this episode, as soon as it was over, I texted Jace and I said, "My God, this episode was heartbreaking," and it was. It was the most engrossing drama I have seen from this show in a long time. Every episode of Blue Eyed Samurai just seems to get better and better and better. And I actually even think the animation is improving. I lamented in the first episode that it looked kind of stiff and artificial. I don't even see it anymore. As a matter of fact, I was watching this last episode thinking, you know what? This almost looks like Japanese art. Like the paintings, they're imitating the paintings that you see on tapestries over there. I fell in love with the story of this episode, the humor of this episode, and oh my gosh, the cliffhanger at the end was just so great. I would say it comes out of nowhere, but it doesn't. It's a very logical cliffhanger, but you don't see it coming. And whenever it happens, you're just like, oh no. I just enjoyed it so much, seeing these characters interweave and unexpectedly run into each other. Two characters have an interaction in this episode, and it's fantastic. And I don't know, I never thought that they were going to interact, and they did. If you're not watching Blue Eyed Samurai, I feel like I've said this so many times today, but if you're not watching Blue Eyed Samurai, watch it. I'm seeing more people online. The other day, Johnny Two Shellos did a video about Blue Eyed Samurai, and I couldn't watch it because he said he was going to spoil the ending of the season. I was like, I haven't gotten that far yet. So people are taking notice. It's got a second season. Get in on it now. It's an incredible series. It's funny. It's action-packed, and it's heartbreaking. It's great drama. See it right now. For the first time, I'm giving Blue Eyed Samurai an Ultra Dazzer because I loved this episode that much.
Well deserved. Okay, here we go. I'm going to let you know. Yeah, what a wonderful episode for so far what has been a wonderful season. Yeah, I mean, it's an R-rated series. And it's not just R-rated because you see things animated that are R-rated, but it's just more in the themes that it's dealing with as well. Seeing, like you mentioned, Akemi and Mizu kind of crossing paths it was kind of when it happened, it was like, oh, wow, I love it when those moments come and I've been led here blind. Like, I wasn't aware that this was going to happen, but they've expertly brought me here in their storytelling. It's, look, it's wonderful. I don't know how much more I want to go on about this because I don't want to give away the cliffhanger because it is a WTF moment. And some people might be watching along, and doing the same thing, savoring one each week. So, but it is just. I sometimes go, wow, I'm so surprised that they didn't try to option this for live action because it's very doable, kind of like live action. But I bet this is a choice to do it in animation because it is art. It is being executed visually in this wonderful style. And I know you had issues in the beginning with that, but certainly I think it's been beautiful from the get-go. It's one of those shows you pause at any point, and that screen and that where it's paused, that could be a screensaver. That could be a painting on your wall. Brilliant show. We're just going to keep ramming it down your throat every week, I think, guys. Go watch Blue Eyed Samurai. You will not be disappointed. It is absolutely an Ultra Dazzer as well. It's I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I was watching it yesterday. I'm like, how good is this show going to get?
I don't think this would work as a live action series. With all due respect, I just don't.
Yeah.
It would not have the same impact. No, it would not have the same impact.
Yeah. But I'm surprised they didn't because of the character. Because I think there would have been an opportunity there to do it. But they're right not to.
Yes.
It would have been a mistake. But I think you could have done it. But, yeah. Who knows? Who knows? We've got that opposite problem coming up soon, remember, with Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Yep. We'll see. We'll see how that
works. There you go.
I mean,
all right, before we get then
They have a wonderful history of bringing animation to live action in the Avatar universe. Sorry, I just vomited in my mouth a little bit.
And you haven't seen any reviews or anything for it yet, have you?
No.
Now, this is a good question. We could put this out live now. Would you consider Rebel Moon a streaming show? It's a movie, isn't it? Even though it's on a streaming platform, it's really a movie. It's a long movie, though, isn't it, apparently?
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to.
No. Yes. I was wondering whether we discuss it on here or not. Or you're going to do... No. That's a movie. It doesn't belong.
We can talk about it next week.
Yeah. I mean, like, not that I'm looking forward to
it's our show. Yeah. We set the rules. We do what we want. We bend the knee to no
Battle
man.
Cat sets the rules, so let's not pretend here, all right?
Battle Cat's not here.
Oh, yeah, we run it. We run it. All right, before we get moved forward, let's say we've got a few comments here. Let's bring a few up. Maidenless Jess of Chaos says, "Hi guys, Merry Christmas to you." Our lovely Fairy Penwings, Goo Afternoon, Queen Battle Cat, and Jay. There you go.
I've had such bad sinuses, it feels like a goo afternoon.
Hope you're feeling better. She wants to know if you're making.
I am recovering very slowly from my medical misadventure a couple of weeks ago. Suffering from a little bit of fatigue, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was. So I am getting better.
Oh, again, like they all are. Jason, is your stomach doing it bad? And, yep, we're doing all right. Hope you're feeling okay. We get it, all right. We get it.
It's doing good.
We're gonna get a copyright strike for that.
I know, because they'll think it came from Magic Mike.
Here we go. I have 2 boy cats, and their names are Degarian and Mystery. Wow, very cool names. I like the names.
I like it too.
Very funny, but had to stop watching it due to airing sporadically.
I'm assuming she's talking about Krapopolis, which I agree. It's hard to watch because you never know when it's going to air or not.
We've got someone coming in called Dina the Sylvian.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm late. You're never late.
No,
you're just early the next time.
You arrived precisely when you were supposed to.
Exactly. Captain Squadron go, hey, it's a Christmas episode. Well, of course, Joe. Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Okay.
The boss is back.
You boys should watch The Ferals. It was a weird... I know The Ferals.
I have never heard of that thing.
You want me to show this USO Jace The Ferals? I think we'll make that happen. I'll bring that up, I think, in a couple of weeks.
Very well.
It's just... Okay. Joe says it's a streaming movie. You're right. I'm not going to argue that. You're right. I was just putting it out there. Everyone says it sucks.
Well, of course it does. It's Zack Snyder.
Everyone said, I would just say, everyone said Speed Racer sucks. And I think that's one of the greatest movies out there. So.
I will agree. It's one of the best anime adaptations ever done.
So you never know. Maybe it'll suck for everybody, but I'll love it. Who knows? But yeah, there we go. So now being Christmas week, Jason, I thought we would change it up a little bit. We're just the rest of the show is going to be around things that we've seen on TV around Christmas that means something to us and share it with the audience. I think
I misunderstood the assignment.
Did you?
I did.
I think you love what you're about to put forward, though. And that's all you had to do.
Okay.
That was something that's special to you. So, we call this segment Christmas on TV. Oakley Dokley. Chase, I've got one this week. I've cheated, guys, but it's a big one. But Jace has done the homework. He's actually followed the rules. Yeah. And he's got a couple of shows he's going to talk to us about. I'll let you take it, mate. What have you got for us?
So I thought I would look at horror series that shouldn't have done a Christmas episode, but did anyway, and it was spectacular. I'm going all the way back to the 1960s for my very first one, and it's an episode of The Twilight Zone called Night of the Meek. Now, normally, The Twilight Zone was a series of horrible twists and turns, and where the characters learned a lesson far too late. This episode is different, however. This episode is much kinder. In it, we have this department store Santa who is just, I don't know the name of the actor. I wish I had looked this up because his performance is amazing. He is a department store Santa who is in an existential crisis because he lives on a very poor street. And as he's walking to work every day, children come up to him and say, Santa, Santa, can I have a dolly this year? Santa, can my daddy have a job? Santa, can we just have food? And there's a scene, and it's so heartbreaking, where he's drunk because that's the only way he can deal with this. He's sitting on a curb, and these kids come up and start asking him for things, and he puts his hand around the kids as they're asking him, and he starts crying.
Wow.
And
that's heavy.
It's an extremely heavy episode. He's drinking to deal with his depression and this crisis that he's going through, and he loses his job one day because he shows up drunk, and a Karen basically like throws a fit until he gets tossed out on his Santa butt. But he finds an abandoned sack in a alleyway, and inside the sack are presents. And depending on who he's with, any present that he pulls out is what that person wants. So he immediately starts going around handing out presents to everybody. And at one point, the clerk who fired him from the store thinks that he stole stuff, and they take him to the police station. And there's a very amusing scene. There's a lot of comedy in this episode. And it ends in a very wonderful way where he's given out all these gifts, but he got nothing in return. But at the end, the twist is he does get what he wants, and he gets what he wants in a very heartwarming way. But it is called Night of the Meek. It is on Paramount Plus. You may be able to find it elsewhere if you know where to look. But it's a wonderful Christmas episode, and if you love the Twilight Zone like I do, definitely check it out.
I've never seen that episode of the Twilight Zone, so that sounds real heady. But yeah, it's still very Christmassy, isn't it? Would you like me to move on to mine?
It's shot in a way, that's okay. It's shot in a way where it almost looks like a live broadcast as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was broadcast live, or at least they shot it in one gigantic take, because it looks like a stage play that they shot. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and talk about yours, we can talk about your big long review, and then we can talk about my last thing. I have to move Battle Cat because she's moving my mouse around, and that never works out well, does it?
No. Well, what I thought I would talk about, and last week I brought up a couple of sitcoms. I'm very much my TV experience. Sitcoms have definitely been part of that TV experience, especially growing up and things like that, and going into the 80s, 90s, whatever. And so I was thinking about some of the Christmas episodes that I love, and there are so many. Last week I spoke about The Office, and I spoke about an episode of Community. And I had about 3 or 4 that I was going to do for tonight, but I just decided to focus on one that is kind of an anti-Christmas episode, but still a Christmas episode. And that's Seinfeld's, it's called Strikes Over. And it's the famous Festivus episode. Now, anybody on this planet, I mean, Seinfeld's a phenomenon, right? Everybody knows Festivus because it's a holiday for the rest of us. And it is just pure gold, Seinfeld. And this episode is mixed with just some wonderful ideas. Elaine's obsession with getting her subway card filled, that she accidentally writes a fake phone number to a guy that wants to pick her up, to, George scamming his workmates by handing out fake donation. Your Christmas present is the honor of the human fund. You've got Jerry dating a girl that sometimes looks okay to him, but in the wrong light, she looks ugly. It is a delicious weave. And of course, Kramer hitting the bombshell that he's been on strike for 12 years at a bagel store, and he needs to kind of go back. It is a beautifully woven story that just highlights what Seinfeld was really about, the most horrible human beings. They are despicable, these people. And it is absolutely set around Christmas. It's kind of, in a way, it's a parody that highlights the absurdity of Christmas. And, if you step back and you look into it and you look at Christmas time from, say, another planet, it's a weird thing we do. And they kind of play it out with George's father. And who doesn't love Festivus? Aluminium pole, the tasks that you have to go through, like the where he gets the opportunity to come out and air his grievances, where he just stands up and starts yelling at George's boss, to the feats of strength where George and his dad have to wrestle. It's this episode of Seinfeld is an episode that we play every year at Christmas because we love how bizarre it is. My wife has never let me do this, but I have tried several times to do a Festivus, and she just won't have it. She goes, it's ridiculous. I said, it would be, everyone would get it. They would come into the house and they go, oh yeah, it's Festivus for the rest of us. No, absolutely wonderful. It isn't, like I said, a traditional, there's no like Christmas moral outcome at the end of this. This is a heap of horrible human beings doing horribly selfish things. And I'm in for it. It does this opposite effect in my family. It brings us closer to the Christmas spirit. And that was my recommendation. Who hasn't seen that episode? Even you would have seen that episode, Jason, haven't you?
I have, and I'm not a huge sitcom person, but I have seen the Festivus episode. Festivus for the rest of us.
Exactly. And you know what? You kind of, when I saw George's father, Jerry Stiller, had an air of sadness because I'm like, oh, you were so good, dude. So
He was so great.
And he didn't pass away that long ago. Was it last year or the year before or something?
I don't know. It just seems like I always wonder. Every now and again, I'll wonder what is he up to? And I'm like, oh yeah, he's gone. Yeah, he's gone. Bad for his career. I wish he'd reconsidered.
Yes. His agent should be have a good talking to about that one. All right, mate. That was it. That was my anti-Christmas episode. So, what's your next one? Your next one's kind of, I kind of know what it is, but I'm not associating it well with the subject matter. So,
so again, I'm doing horror series who did a Christmas episode and shouldn't have, but it turned out great anyway. And this one comes from the 6th season of The X-Files, and it's called How the Ghost Stole Christmas. And this episode is just fantastic. First of all, Scully never gets rattled, and I love this screenshot of her just screaming.
Yeah.
So on Christmas Eve, Mulder invites Scully, much against her will, to come and do a stakeout of a haunted house because he heard a story about a murder that happened in the house because two people were in love. They go inside and the house starts messing with them. And eventually they meet the owners of the house. And it is Lily Tomlin and Ed Asner. First of all, terrific guest stars. Another person who's no longer with us is Ed Asner. Ed Asner and Lily Tomlin were huge fans of the show and said, you know what, we'll be on any episode you want. And they actually tried to get Bob Newhart to be in this episode. He turned them down, and then somebody said, hey, Ed Asner said he'd be in an episode. Let's call him up. They jumped at the chance. Spoiler alert, Ed Asner and Lily Tomlin are ghosts. And they have to get Mulder and Scully to basically take part in a murder-suicide on Christmas, because that is basically how they feed, I guess. Despite this, it is a very lighthearted episode. Lots of humor, lots of twists and turns. David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson are having a blast on this, although apparently Gillian Anderson did not enjoy the crawl across the floor with the blood because it got sticky and they would stick to the floor. But it's a fantastic episode. The guest stars are amazing. And despite the fact that The X-Files, for all of its bravado and bluster with aliens and whatnot, this episode feels more like a fantasy than anything else. And the fact that they do it over Christmas is fantastic because remember, in the most wonderful time of the year, they always say that you're supposed to tell scary ghost stories. And this was a scary ghost story told by the X-Files with a smile and a wink. It is from the 6th season. It's called the How the Ghost Stole Christmas. If you haven't seen it yet, I feel like I say this a lot, but I'm going to say it again. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Could be a new Christmas tradition for you.
I have seen it, but I didn't put it together. But you are right. It is. I mean, it's got it in the title of the episode, but I more remember that episode separately from Christmas. Don't know why, even though it's Christmas themed. But great, good choice, good choice. Well, there you got a variety here, guys. You got one of the, yeah, got a weird variety from us from the last couple of weeks, which has been kind of really, really cool. In the comments here, we have the actor's name. It was Art Carney who.
That was Art Carney?
The Santa.
No way. Yeah, you know what? Now that I'm looking back at it, it seems like that I do believe that was Art Carney. My gosh. Yeah, Art Carney was fantastic in this episode. Jay is frozen again, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. Art Carney's delivers a monologue inside the store, and it's a fantastic monologue. Honestly, I think that you could probably do it in a drama class and get A's for it because it really solidifies, because you think that he's just this drunk Santa guy, and he tells the store owner, this is why I drink. This is why I do it, because it's the only way I can deal with the pain. Are you back? Are you a still picture?
I'm back. I really wish I hadn't said anything negative about Monarch now. Really wish.
But well, whenever I'm talking, you're so quiet. It's like I don't know if you're a still picture or if you're so
I think you've known me long enough to know that me and quietness is something that go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's how I know things are wrong.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, that kind of ends it for our Christmas episode.
Yes.
If you don't agree, you're wrong. We will be taking a week off next week.
Yes, we will.
But we will be returning the week after. Why are we taking a week off next week? Well, it's actually my birthday that day, guys. So I'm turning the big 50. So I believe there are activities planned. So there you go. That's why I'm not doing the show. I'm thinking about me. My fault.
That's okay.
Yeah, there you go. But we'll be back the week after, guys. And, again, thanks for watching. We've been having a blast doing the show. And if you have any shows out there that you think that we're not covering, but we should be covering, it'd be really great if you let us know, because we're trying to keep on top of all this, but it's not easy, is it, Chase?
It's not. And you mentioned it earlier, Percy Jackson. We're going to start looking at the Percy Jackson show on Disney Plus. And yeah,
I feel like there's something else starting as well.
There probably is. Who knows?
I feel like there's a couple of things starting Christmas Day or just after Christmas. But Percy Jackson is a big one.
What if it's going to drop all 9 episodes? So we're going to have to talk about all 9 episodes on the next edition of If You Don't Agree, You're Wrong.
Are we going to talk about all 9 episodes like as a whole, or do we going to break this down? How do you want this to go? Or is this a decision that we'll discuss privately after we've seen
Let's discuss this privately where we can curse at each other.
Because if it's horrible, I'm not talking about this for the next 9 weeks. So, but there you go. But yeah, lots of fun stuff coming up. Funnily enough about that Percy Jackson, they actually just dropped it early as kind of an early Christmas present. So.
They don't care at Disney Plus. Disney Plus is losing Disney so much money right now. They just don't care. It's just like, just put it out there. It's fine. Industry's
changing.
It is, and I think Disney's kind of regretting Disney Plus right now, if you want to know my opinion.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that wraps it up, guys. We want to wish everyone out there a very merry holiday, however you're celebrating, when you're celebrating, who you're celebrating with. Have a wonderful holiday break. We wish you all the very best. And we will see you in the year of 2024, Jason.
Yes. And in this house, we celebrate Happy Honda Days.
Sounds good.
Do they have Honda Days in Australia?
No, I have no idea what the hell that is.
Oh, it's great. They sell Hondas during Happy Honda Days. They exploit the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to sell Hondas. Which is weird.
At that.
Well, it's weird because Jesus would never drive a Honda, because it says in the Bible that he came of his own accord.
That was a long setup for a joke.
But it was worth it.
Break.